Recording in progress.
Apologize. I'm gonna redo that. Committee members, when I call your name, please answer present. Jose Altamirano,
Present.
Stephanie Arroyo, Adem Brija, Rosa Diaz,
Second.
Jessica Elliott,
Present.
Anne-Marie Vasquez, Nilsa Orama,
Present.
Claudia Perez, Asher Rodriguez.
Present. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Claudia. Asher Rodriguez. Xavier Santiago, present. Isaac Scott. And Jason Bienvenu.
Present.
We have one.
Okay, tonight's meeting agenda was circulated in advance. If there are no objections, we will adopt tonight's agenda. So moved. All right. If there are no objections, tonight's agenda is officially adopted. Did we have minutes circulated? I didn't see it. We'll circulate, we'll approve those and set them together. Okay, now we have on our agenda tonight, we have two announcements. This CB11 new member event is 8/9. It's going to be Friday at 5 p.m. It's going to be on 101st and Lexington Avenue to help continue the onboarding of our new members. You're welcome to join us if you're available. The CB11 picnic event will be held right after Labor Day on September 7th at 11 a.m. over at on 115th Street, where Candy Vasquez is graciously agreed to host what we've done in the past. So that will be there from about 11 to 2, maybe 3, depending on how the party goes. Please, it's potluck. We'll have a little thing circulating for what people can bring. Next, the presentations and discussions. We have our updates regarding congestion pricing in Second Avenue Subway and Park Avenue Viaduct. Joseph O'Donnell from the MTA is here. Joseph. Joe, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Any second there.
With us just a minute, we will hand the baton. So you can present, or you have a slide deck to present?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
It's all yours, Joe.
Oh, you're growing a beard. You're muted, Joe.
Oh, turn my video on, turn my mic off. So thanks everybody, appreciate it. And thanks for the heads up. Thanks to Community Board 11 for having me here tonight. I am going to share my screen. Just bear with me for a second. Let's see, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. So here tonight to give you an update on where we are, brief update on congestion pricing. There, sorry.
So you got.
Go ahead.
Brief update on congestion pricing and where we are, and then I'll dive a little bit more deeply into our projects that are currently underway in East Harlem, Second Avenue Subway Phase 2, and the Park Avenue Viaduct Phases 1 and 2. As many of you are aware, the governor had opted to put a pause on the congestion pricing program, the MTA's congestion pricing program, which would be the Central Business District tolling program. So as things get sorted out with that, the revenue that was intended to be generated as part of that program, approximately $15 billion, is also on hold. That required us to take a good hard look at some of the projects and programs that we were advancing, determine what is the most critical to move forward, and what would be put on, for lack of a better word, the back burner while our funding sources get sorted out. Good news, at least for the folks of East Harlem, for those of you who are excited about Second Avenue Subway, the governor has more recently committed $54 million to Phase 2's Contract 1, which is the early utility contract. So that is going to restart and move forward. Up until this point, they had only been doing some sort of, more or less back of the house stuff and testing, soil sampling and things of that nature, but they're going to get going in more earnest fashion with that utility work now that that money has been committed by the governor, but I'll get into that in a little bit. More on the congestion pricing. So as I mentioned, there was $15 billion that was anticipated to be generated as a result of congestion pricing. Many projects were not beholden to that $15 billion, but in order to make sure that we can continue to keep the existing system in a state of good repair and safe operation, some of those dollars that were, otherwise going to go to expansion and nice to have projects, now has to be reallocated and dedicated to that existing system, state of good repair and safety stuff. So approximately $16.5 billion is currently being deferred. $27 billion of the existing capital plan, that 2020 to 2024 capital plan, has already been committed, and those projects are either already completed or already underway. And then there's $12 billion worth of remaining funding through the remainder of this current capital plan, which we will dedicate to the more critical elements of the system while we figure out what is going on with congestion pricing. So what does that mean? Our guiding principle is maintaining safety and functionality of the existing subway system. We don't want to find ourselves like we did in the 1980s, where everything was falling apart. So the highest priority stuff is going to preserve the state of good repair projects, which are necessary for safe and functional operation of the subways, buses, and rail operations. On a case-by-case basis, some of these projects may get deferred, some of them will move forward, but these are state of good repair and normal replacement projects that could have effects on reliability and operational efficiency. And as I mentioned, those nice-to-have projects, like expansion to the existing system, accessibility improvements above what we're required to do by settlement, bus electrification, and other upgrades. Most of these are going to get deferred, at least until the next capital program, while we figure out what it is we're going to be able to achieve and how we're going to fund things absent that $15 billion. So some of the projects that are getting deferred, some of those nice to haves that I mentioned, those are the expansions, accessibility, zero emissions bus projects, and some of the infrastructure and technology upgrades. The signal modernization, rolling stock, state of good repair work, that stuff is going to be advanced on a case-by-case basis with the more critical elements or the more in dire need of good repair elements moving forward. And then, as I mentioned, the higher priority stuff, state of good repair projects necessary for safe and functional operation of all of the systems So those will move forward. As far as next steps with regard to congestion pricing in the capital plan, we're continuing to manage that 2020 to 24 capital plan on a case-by-case basis. So things will continue to shift as needed based on available funding. And at the same time, we continue to prepare for 2025 and 2029. So we did our 20-year needs assessment, which is what is used to inform our next capital plan. So in this case, the 2025 to 2029 capital plan. And we're advancing what either needs to be moved out of the 2024 capital plan and into the 2025 capital plan based on lack of funding or complete funding for that initial 2020 to 24. And then those new elements that we'll be putting into. I say all this to say we are confident the governor continues to maintain that there will be a path forward for the completion of all of the 20 to 24 elements. So we are confident that she is going to come through with that path forward, or find another path forward for congestion pricing. And then what does that mean for our existing projects? Like I said, we have the Second Avenue subway going on and Park Avenue Viaduct going on presently in East Harlem. Phase 2 of the Second Avenue subway project. Right now we have contract 1, which is that early utility works, building stabilization and building monitoring program. That contract 1 is intended to clear the way for future contracts 2, 3, and 4. Contracts 2, 3, and 4 are currently on hold while we figure out what is going on with this funding stream and with the 20 to 25 to 29 capital plan. But right now we are advancing contract 1, which we've come to you before about, and which is intended to, as I mentioned, clear the pathway, move all of those utilities out of Second Avenue proper and move them off to the side, to the east and west into the periphery and underneath the sidewalk. One of the lessons learned from phase 1 of the Second Avenue subway was the curveballs that we experience and find when we get in to do the heavy civil work was complicated by outdated utility drawings. Despite our best efforts and ongoing coordination with all of our agency partners here, some of those drawings are 100 years old. They're not kept up to date. Somebody has updated something and not updated the drawings, and that adds delays to our project, which increases the overall duration as well as the dollars. So we're getting in early to move those utilities so that when we do have a path forward for phases or contracts 2, 3, and 4, that we can do that work with less unintended interruptions. Just as a reminder for everybody who may not be aware or may have been lulled by the recent pause into losing track of what this project is intended, what we're going to do is we are going to build off of the successes of phase 1, which extended the Q line service to 96th Street. So we're going to take that Q line from 96th Street and advance it up to 125th Street. We're going to be creating 3 new stations, a brand new station at 106th Street, which will be delivered cut and cover, which means that we'll be building that station from the surface down. A brand new 116th Street station, which is going to take into effect the existing tunnels that were built there in the 1970s. We're going to repurpose those tunnels and build out the station from the inside there. From there, we're going to launch a tunnel boring machine or possibly 2, depending on the contractor and how they choose to do it when that contract is finally awarded. But they'll launch a tunnel boring machine or 2 from 120th Street approximately, heading north and then eventually west at 124th Street, connecting with 125th Street, where we will build a brand new station underneath the existing Lex Line station there. So you'll be able to access the existing 456 and the new Q line at 125th Street. And then there will be another entrance at 125th and Park, close proximity to the existing Metro North rail station, as well as the M60. And then beyond that, going west, we will have tail tracks. These tail tracks serve multiple functions. Not only do they allow us to lay up trains there for the start of service in the morning, so when that 5 a.m. Commuter wants to get on a train heading downtown, they don't have to wait for a train to come all the way up from a yard. There will be trains ready to go downtown, laid up in those tail tracks. It also allows us to remove any damaged or inoperable trains from service, and store them there, so that we can continue to maintain service while, we're in our normal service patterns. So what is the status of the project? The original substantial completion of this project was intended to be Q3 of 2032. It continues to be Q3 of 2032. Nothing has changed thus far, depending on how long these congestion pricing delays linger on, and our inability to award subsequent contracts. So no impact as of today. The current budget of the project was $6.968 billion and remains $6.98 billion. So despite the pause on congestion pricing, the contract or the project is going to stay on track, by getting this restart going early, so that we can get back to work on this utility work. And that's part and parcel to that $54 million that the governor put forth for us. We continue to further refine cost containment, and look for ways to minimize costs and expound the cost savings. Thus far, we've already found an additional $300 million in identified savings. This is going to help us by implementing modern methods of construction, which will keep us on time for delivery, and modular construction, which not only helps us do some of the work off-site and bring it on-site, but also helps us minimize the impacts to the surrounding community. Some of the new approaches that I mentioned for phase two, one of the things, the key lessons learned from phase one was to do that utility work early. And we're also going to reuse the built out tunnels already from 112 to 120. This reduces some of the impacts to the community. The only cut and cover station is going to be that 106th Street station, and that's largely predicated by the geology there and where the hard rock is there, as well as the existing tunnel alignment that we need to connect to, from the phase one terminus. We're advancing that early utility relocation, as I mentioned. We're doing a lot of the real estate acquisition that we need to do to clear the way for the rest of the subsequent contracts as part of phase two. And then we're streamlining those contracts. I've mentioned this before, and there's a slide that we'll go into in a little bit. Whereas we had 11 or 12 contracts as part of phase one, we've condensed those into 4 contracts for phase two, which will minimize complications with handoff and any delays with a precursor contract to any future contracts. It's a smarter use of design build and incorporating outside expertise into this project. I mentioned we're going to reuse the existing 70 tunnels for the 116th Street station. If you see on the left-hand side of my screen, that's what the condition in the existing 1970s tunnels look like. They're in great shape, especially for being 50 years old. We continue to update or maintain rather those tunnels. Our maintenance of way folks are continuously in there making sure that there's any water intrusion is addressed, and that there's air constantly going in and out of the station, keeping it in a good and stable condition. If you see on the right-hand side of the screen, what we're going to be doing is on the left-hand side of the screen, and I'll use my mouse here, I think. Hopefully y'all can see that, but in the center of the screen is a layup track that they had originally envisioned in the 1970s that they would use as a maintenance track. So the running tunnels would be on the right and left-hand side of that left-hand picture, and the running tunnel, the maintenance track would be in the center of that existing tunnel. We don't need that maintenance track any longer because we have the tail tracks and we have yards that will accommodate that. But now we'll be able to use that center track to create the platform. So we'll put a raised center platform in the middle of there, which will be able to service both the uptown and downtown platforms here. So again, adaptive reuse of that existing infrastructure, which becomes a great starter hole and investment for us, that is not going to go to waste, rather than demolish that whole structure. We're going to be able to adaptively reuse it and build it out. So this gives you a sense on the left-hand side of the screen of all of the contracts that went into phase one. As I say, we're condensing those into 4 contracts as part of phase 2. We are currently in the midst of contract 1, which is that early utility work, and that's a design bid build contract. We'll be moving on to contracts 2 and 3, hopefully. Certainly contract 2, it's our objective to get that awarded early next year, as long as we have a path forward with funding. That will be that tunneling and excavation contract, and they'll build out the entrance and ancillaries. So that will be the contract that goes from 120th Street north up to 125 and then eventually west to build out those new running tunnels with the tunnel boring machines. And at the same time, they will start to construct the entrance and ancillary facilities for all of the entrances. We're also managing this project phase 2 differently, bringing outside expertise to bear. We're doing a lot of peer review, something that we learned as part of the Canarsie Tunnel project, where we're doing 4 rounds of technical review by outside parties to make sure that we're doing things in the best manner possible. We've also implemented a major capital review unit as part of the MTA. This is a panel of international experts assembled to review our designs and contract documents to make sure that we're using the best efficiencies and means and methods possible. And then we're also utilizing alternative technical concepts that have been proven effective on other projects like the Long Island Railroad third track project, where during procurement, we've solicited alternative designs from proposers to minimize cost on the project. So what have we done to date? As I mentioned, we've awarded contract 1 for that utility relocation. They've already done the modification of the First Avenue bike lane from 102nd Street all the way up to 124th Street. We are only planning to do 102nd Street to 112th Street now, so that we could move the Second Avenue bike lane off of Second Avenue over to First Avenue so that we could start the utility work in the 106th Street station area. But because of this pause, it allowed us to continue with that bike lane modification all the way up to 124th Street, which was always contemplated, but we were going to get to at a later date. But in order to keep things moving and keep that contract working, we finished that work all the way up to 124th Street now. As I mentioned, we acquired and continue to acquire key properties to prepare for that heavy civil construction work. We're advancing the RFP for contract packages for the tunneling in the 106th Street station. That's that contract 2. And we've also received proposals and continue to evaluate proposals for prospective project management consultant teams. And those teams will be third-party consultants, will help us manage not only the execution and delivery of the individual contracts, but the integration of all 4. Moving forward, we're going to continue with the engineering and procurement of this project. We're going to conduct limited utility works. The next thing that you will start to see, and we'll start to message in the next week to 10 days, is we're going to get back to some of the utility work. Something that you will see down at 106th Street is some testing and geological surveys of the existing water main there. There's a major water main just north of 106th Street. It actually runs through 106th Street, but we are going to be excavating just north of 106th Street in order to understand the limits of that water main. We'll be doing the saw cutting and the more disruptive work during the day, and then doing the actual survey work and investigative work at night. But that's going to get going probably around the latter half of August, sometime after the week of August 19th. And then we will get to the reduction of the sidewalk on the west side of 2nd Avenue, starting at 111th Street and working our way south. That was always contemplated as part of this project because that frees us up to start the utility work on the east side of 2nd Avenue and push all of the traffic 1 lane over by reducing the sidewalk on the west side. We'll be conducting continue limited utility work. As I mentioned, we'll finalize the RFP for contract 2, which is that tunneling contract, as well as advance the design for contract 4, continue to evaluate those project management proposals, and explore further cost containment and schedule optimization as we move forward. The Park Avenue Viaduct project, that's another project that we have going on in East Harlem. This project is not impacted by congestion pricing. Not only are we advancing phase one of the project, but we recently announced the advancement of phase two of the project. So we are going to take lessons learned from the phase one and apply those to phase two, as well as the momentum and the institutional knowledge that the contractor brings to bear on current phase one and bring that up to the second phase of this project. Phase two of the project is going to be similar to phase one in that we will remove and replace segments of the Park Avenue Viaduct, but this will be from 127th Street mid-block to East 131st and 132nd Street. The work there will include the replacement of the existing structures, new concrete, new steel, along with new track, obviously at the track level. Just as a reminder, the phase one of this program goes from East 115th Street to East 123rd Street. That's where we are presently working now. Many of you who live, and certainly CB11, whose office is right there, see the gantry crane right outside and executing that work. We've already completed 3 bridge replacement operations, and we are starting a 4th this coming weekend. So things are moving along well there, and as anticipated, we're currently on schedule. And if you see on the right-hand side of the screen, the upcoming phase 2 work would go from East 127th Street to mid-block between East 131 and East 132. I mentioned that progress is going according to schedule on phase 1. All of the elements that you see in blue are already completed. That's the substructure or the under viaduct work inside the various areas underneath or lots underneath the viaduct. So lots 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 work there has been completed. We're presently working in lot 5 underneath the viaduct. Above ground or above the viaduct, the bridge replacement operations have been going along successfully. As I mentioned, we are replacing anywhere from 2 to 4 segments at a time, and we'll be doing this through the end of the summer. We've already completed the work in lots 11 and 12. You can see, I believe it's hard to tell, but lots 9 and 10, where my cursor is now, those are circled in green because that work is not yet complete, but that's the work that will be advanced this weekend. So everything north of 120th is complete, and we'll be doing 120th this weekend. The phase 2 structural replacement, similar to phase 1, there are tenants underneath the viaduct. There are less commercial tenants here. It's primarily 2 tenants. One is DSNY and the other is Parking for Positive Workforce. We've already engaged both parties and have agreements, at least verbal agreements in place with both of them so that we understand their needs and the timeline for when anybody needs to be moved and how we would move them to execute this work. Utility relocation, foundation, and substructure work is going to get going, now in Q2. It's technically Q3 now of 2024. That work will start in lots 17, 20, and 21. So that work will get going simultaneous to the work going on in phase 1. The superstructure replacement, which is the above ground work, that's anticipated to get going in Q3 of 2025. We'll start on southbound Park Avenue from East 127th Street to mid-block East 131st and 32nd Streets. That'll be concurrent to the phase 1 work on the southbound side before we flip over in Q2 of 2026 to the northbound side to execute the work from East 127th Street mid-block to 131 and 132. As part of phase 1, we have a very robust community outreach and engagement effort going on. So we're going to follow a similar plan for phase 2. We're going to continue with mailed notices to the surrounding area, quarterly stakeholder meeting updates, individual tenant and property meetings. We were meeting with some tenants, some commercial establishments, a restaurant for phase 1 today to talk about some of their concerns. We'll continue to table and participate in community events to spread the word and educate folks on what the project is and what the timeline is. We also will continue to have office hours in the existing Second Avenue Subway Community Information Center at 69 East 125th Street. And then we'll upgrade or integrate, if you will, phase 2 announcements into our email notifications, which include 10-day construction notice look-aheads, quarterly newsletters, and door-to-door flyers. This is the contact information for the Park Avenue Viaduct project. You have my contact information, and I'm happy to share that in the chat for anybody who doesn't have it. There's also ways to sign up for phase 1 notifications or phase 2 notifications if you want to tailor how you receive that information. You can do so by scanning the respective barcode for the phase that you're most interested in, or doing it on our project webpage. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Angel and Xavier, and happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Joe, appreciate it. I'm gonna go to, just so you know who's in the room, we have our executive committee and also Leslie Long, who sits on our Second Avenue Subway Task Force, who I'm sure you're well acquainted with, and from Franklin Plaza. So I'm gonna open up to our board members here. Any questions? Jason?
Yes, thank you for your presentation, Joe. As far as for the hold on the Second Avenue subway, is there an anticipation from MTA as to when they'll potentially release the RFPs for that, or not as of
So
yet?
the RFP for the project management consultant has been released. The anticipation was that we were going to release the contract 2 RFP in August. That remains to be seen. We may hold off on that a little bit while we, try to get a better understanding of what this, future funding streams are going to look like. But it is our hope to still put that on the street before the end of this year so that we can award it by no later than early next year.
Excellent. And I just have 2 more points. And the MWP participation,
Yep,
you have a-
all of these contracts have MWB participation goals. I believe it's 22.5%, but I will confirm that. Subsequent contracts, contract 1, because of the limited scope of it and the specific nature of the work that is on it, does not have a local hiring component attached to it, but subsequent contracts 2, 3, and 4 will have local hiring components. So along with the MWBE goals, subsequent contracts on phase 2 will also have local hiring goals. And that's initially set at 20%.
Yeah, you already answered my 3rd question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can I know what's gonna happen with the garbage trucks that are underneath the tunnels?
Yeah, so we're working with DSNY to sort of do musical chairs with the lots and the way that we do the work up north there, so that they will always be able to maintain operational flexibility with regard to the sanitation trucks. So we're working in close choreography with sanitation so that when we're working in a particular lot, we'll have them stage their trucks in a vacant lot and then shift them back and forth as needed. So there shouldn't be any impact to operational flexibility for DSNY there.
Okay, great. I'm just stating all the executive in the picture.
Okay.
Jose, your question.
Are we still gonna do the tour of the tunnels? Because we spoke about that last time, Joe.
That was my-
Yeah, I mean, we're just not there yet. I mean, everything was sort of put on hold, but yeah, certainly as long as we know, we get a bit more confidence that everything's moving forward as planned. We'll see about doing those tunnel tours. I mean, honestly, I'll know that once we get back into the fall here and it's a little bit more mild and temperate down there, I'll see what we can do about getting that going sooner rather than later. But yeah, definitely that's still an option and it's still on our radar.
Okay, so then for fall. Also, congratulations on I heard that Leslie was telling me you guys purchased Franklin Plaza so that you can avoid all those headaches.
We purchased Franklin Plaza?
All right.
No. No, that I mean, we're working in close coordination with them. I mean, I've personally always felt that we had a good relationship with Franklin Plaza and their respective board presidents, the co-op board presidents. Miss Outlaw, who is there now, we've established a direct line of communication with. We did a dedicated meeting for the residents of Franklin Plaza before we got going with the contract one work. So there's always going to be bumps in the road, but I do think we've established a good line of communication. More recently, we met with their senior folks to give them an update on the work and what they can expect. And some of the environmental management plans, which they had a lot of concerns with, as you might expect, given, the elderly nature of the senior population and some of the more complications that they would have with some of the environmental concerns. So I think we have a good relationship. Obviously, like I said, there will be things that we have to work through, but I'm confident that we have the lines of communication with the right people to work through those.
Yeah, not a problem. Sorry, Joe, just last point, for the PMCs, is that public information yet, or do you have a list?
The RFP is public. The respondents are not yet public. And until they, determine, who they shortlist and who they ultimately choose, I don't think that they would make that public, but I can check on it. But the RFP itself, and I can send a link over to the RFP if it's, so desired, I can send that over to Angel.
Listen,
Okay. Good evening, Joe. It's Leslie Cologne calling. How you doing?
Hey, Leslie, how are you?
Good, good. So you had said that you've gotten $54 million extra and the highest priority is the safety. I'm still very concerned.
No, it isn't 54 million extra, just to be clear. That replaces money that otherwise would have been counted on as part of congestion pricing. So the way it'll work ultimately is that $54 million is a Band-Aid for us right now so that we can keep Second Avenue subway moving. And if everything goes according to plan and the congestion pricing or some other revenue stream manifests itself, then we would replace that $54 million. If that does not come to pass, then the governor, has pledged this $54 million to be a stopgap measure for us. So it's not extra money.
Okay, so the highest priority said was safety. And you
Correct.
know my concern on the safety with the alternate exit on 108. I'm still very highly concerned about that. I've seen the schematics and I see that the ancillary building that's going to be put on the south side of 106th Street, that can be the alternate exit as well.
I'd have to speak with our designers to understand. The ancillaries do serve already as emergency points of egress, so there is a way in and out of it. My concern is, and I have to double check, I don't want to speak out of school, is combining the ancillary with the day-to-day entrance and egress is you take up so much space because these entrances all have to have elevators. You take so much space up with the elevators and the entrance points that you're either going to have to build higher, wider, deeper, and there's residual impacts that come with that. But let me speak with the design team and find out what the complications or restrictions to incorporating the entrance into the ancillary structure would be. Sometimes it's also outside of the station envelope and it doesn't bring it down into the paid area. These ancillary structures are typically in the back of the house. But let me confirm for you, Leslie. I don't want to, give you misinformation or half information. I'll speak to the design team and find out what their thinking is on that.
Okay, so there's one on 72nd Street.
Correct. And if you notice, that entrance is unique in that there are no elevators there at 72nd in the ancillary combined entrance. The other entrance on the south side of the street is 100% elevator access because we couldn't put an elevator because of all of the equipment that needs to go in the ancillary and entrance, the combined one on the northeast side of, or the northwest side of 72nd. But like I say, let me confirm why that wasn't a path forward, and I'll get back to you on that.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
No, I hope you do.
Thank you. Any other follow-up questions we have? Do you mind if we send an email, as always?
No, that'd be great. It helps me. I'm getting up there in age, and I don't want to forget anything.
Okay, so I think that's important, and also too, Joe, if you could send across this presentation, please, as you have done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send this deck. What I'll also do, it may be helpful, and just some folks who are interested in that sort of thing. I glossed over or went through the congestion pricing, scenarios really quickly because, it's slightly above my pay grade. I gave you the bare nuts and bolts. There is a very detailed presentation on congestion pricing and the impacts and what will or won't move forward. That is on our website too, on the MTA's website that was recently presented to our board. So I'll send you all the link to that as well, and you can either host it or distribute it as you see fit.
I think, one more question.
Right, I understand that you had the relocations of the Second Avenue bus on 106th Street, and it was being relocated, the express bus, to 104th Street. And I just passed there and they're doing construction there, so what's gonna happen with the bus stop on 106?
So the express bus stop is being moved to 104th Street because when we need to do work there, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes along with the SBS service, those kiosks that need to be utilized. So we needed to move that kiosk down to 104th Street in order to, maintain the service, but also be able to do the work. The local bus stops are going to stay where they are, except for some intermittent moves where we may need to move them a block here or there while we're working in a particular location. But for this current phase of contract work, the SBS bus is moving down to 103, 104.
Thank you. One question, from online, Jules Feynman. Jules, please unmute yourself.
Yep, thanks, sorry. Yes, thank you very much for a great presentation. I got 4 very, very quick questions. I'll throw them all out. Pick which ones you can answer. How do we get a bus stop moved, returned to 96th and Park? Used to be there many years ago. I've been on this block on 97th off Park for 22 years, and there was a bus stop on the crosstown line on both sides of 96 on Park Avenue. Now it's only on Madison and Lex. That's one question. Number 2, is there any thought at all to trying to get back the $300 million a year that is lost to fare evasion? Number 3, wait a minute. Was there a number 3? Oh, you talked about all these extra new contracts and committees and consultants to make sure you're using the most modern techniques, the most cost-effective techniques. Is this going to have an effect on what was reported in the Times a few years ago, that your projects are by far the most expensive cost per mile of any subway projects in the world, and it's mostly due to feather bedding both by the unions and by consultants? I don't remember what the 4th one was. I know what it was. When you start playing with 125th Street, the stations up there, are you going to, can we put up a plaque for the Yale researchers who don't think that, stopping drug addicts is a good idea? I'm done.
All right, so I'm gonna start with 1. With regard to the bus stop at 96th and Park, I can work with you directly, or I can work with Angel and Xavier. What I can do is connect you with our bus operations folks, who can advise as to what the status, why that was removed and not placed back, and if it is contemplated going back, and if not, why not? But that's more of an operational question, but I'm certainly happy to connect you with the folks who make those decisions. As with regard to the $300 million in fare evasion, we do have, it's a huge concern for us, obviously. It's just, money that is literally, going down the drain that we could be using, to make sure that the system stays in a state of good repair, as well as advance, these nice to have projects, these expansion and ADA accessibility projects. There is a fare evasion pilot that is currently being implemented at 4 stations to understand how we can, do better. So we are looking into it. We don't have an answer just yet, but it is something we are studying and trying to combat, because we agree it's definitely money that is better used instead of being just washed away. The cost for the peer review, my Connecticut accent came out there for a second, peer review. But the peer review and the other committees that are convened in order to make sure that we're doing things most cost effectively, yes, we anticipate that that is going to result in a cost savings. We're already seeing, over $300 million worth of cost savings on the planning for phase two. And we saw it on the LI third track project. We saw it on the Canarsie project. So the net result is, whatever expenditures go into the procurement of the expertise in order to, drive down the savings here, the net result is a positive, is a savings. And then with regard to the plaque, listen, I was there today at 125th Street, and I walked from 125th and Park down to 117th Street. And it's always an interesting walk there. So we continue to work with our colleagues, especially as we embark on creating a very, what I would consider special hub at 125th Street. The quality of life issues is on everybody's radar, is on our radar, on DOT's radar. I'm not sure if Carrie's on the call tonight, but I know certainly on Uptown Grand Central and Community Board 11's radar, WEAC's radar. So those quality of life issues are on everybody's radar. And I think, we continue to have a seat at the table to help try to do what we can to combat those issues. I don't know if a plaque is going to get that done, but we're happy to continue the dialogue and the conversation.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions and robust response. Yes, Jules, I gotta move the meeting along because we have a packed agenda. Can you send a follow-up question?
Real fast follow-up. First of all, thank you very much for your responses. Sorry for the snark on the Yale. May I highly suggest that with your community partners for the 125th Street quality of life issues, that you work with Sean Hill.
Yeah, we speak to Sean quite a bit too. Yeah.
Okay. Did I get this? Did we hear this right? You're spending $300 million just on planning?
No, we saved 300 million in our planning efforts. We found ways to cut costs to the tune of 300 million while we were refining our planning.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you very, very much, and keep up the great work. And I'll be in touch with you regarding the bus stop.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for everyone who's attending, yourself included, Jules, is that I sit on Congressman Espaillat's committee to assess the issues at 125th Street, and so they're very well aware. And their office is also communicating with the issues up there as well as with the ETA. I'm gonna have to move the meeting along now, if you don't mind. Everyone, thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Next up, our liquor license application. Before we jump in, Angel, if you'd be so kind to go over the kind of process that we amended to make it more streamlined for all of us here at the board. I know I'm aware of it, because we're gonna be losing members here.
Yeah, it was quorum.
Yeah, so,
I gotta
do
go.
you wanna make a quick brain dump on this?
Yeah, sure. So in June, at the executive meeting, you all here will remember, just for the purposes of for the benefit of the public, the committee agreed to implement a practice going forward from that point to, in the hopes of expediting review of applications for liquor licenses and for street activity permits. In instances for renewals or for renewal applications and for repeat events. Simple renewals where there have been no complications, no excessive 311s or any other problems, or ideas of changing the method of operation, where it's just a straight renewal. The application will be reviewed administratively in the office and approved by myself, the district manager, and the chair of the committee, and then referred to the chair of the board. We have one of those on tonight's agenda. And then similarly for street activities, in instances where events, mostly block parties, have been held multiple years in a row without incidents, without significant incidents, they'll also be approved by the same method. In all those instances, the events will still be posted on agendas as you see this evening. So the public still has their opportunity to weigh in, and the committee and the board will have, of course, the opportunity to consider what's submitted by the public, either in writing or spoken at a meeting, testified to in the meeting. So that's the process. that, so in this, as reflected in this month's agenda, there are, I think, 3 or 4. Three applications that met that criteria and were approved, thus far.
Okay, great, thank you. And what I'm gonna do is the liquor license one, we do have, let's say, a new application. I'm just gonna clarify this street activity permits, whether or not they've submitted all the materials, will follow the same status quo. This license and permits does throughout the year. So the first one, Teamworks 3 LLC doing business, Teamwork on 3. We will not need to vote on that. Number 2, Los Amigos 116 which is an application for wine and beer. Restaurant located at 231 East 116th Street. Did they provide all their documentation?
No, they're still missing a letter of support.
Okay, so for right now, we will have to deny that as per our rules. Okay, so with that, I will entertain a recommendation to approve or deny based on the fact they have provided all materials.
Do we have to approve the person?
That it doesn't require.
Okay, great, oh, sorry, no.
So this is on.
Motion to deny, number 2.
Is there a second? Second, all those in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Opposed? Yes.
I have a question. Why are we denying? For a particular reason? No, I must have,
They're missing
Yeah.
documents.
they're missing documents. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Want to make sure.
Okay. So we're about to street exit. Yes.
So I didn't know until just now, there was a hand up, Anthony Caraballo, I'm not sure if he's a rep for this application or not, it's still actually not allowed to speak. He wanted to recognize.
Yes,
And
everybody.
Anthony, are you representative of Los Amigos?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Carabao. I'm the representative. We have submitted all the documents. We sent them in about 2 weeks ago. And thank you for allowing me to be heard. I got a little concerned that this was just going to be finished. So we also submitted in excess of 50 signatures, and our packet is very thorough. Ms. Pierre will probably agree with that. It was submitted on July 25th. My client, Rafael Martinez Juarez, he made several attempts to obtain letters in the area. He was unsuccessful. He speaks Spanish predominantly, but I'm not saying there was a language barrier, but he did make attempts to obtain letters and he hasn't been successful. So, I mean, we have significant amount of signatures. This is for beer and wine only. It's a small venue, 13 tables, 40 seats. So maybe the board could give us a chance to submit these letters before the full board meeting instead of a flat out denial tonight.
I mean, so we have Anthony, thank you for attending. We have a process and we apply the process fairly. The letters of support for new licenses, regardless of whether it includes liquor or not, are part of a process. When is this, when was this filed, Angel?
June 17th.
June 17th. So when is the deadline? When do they have?
Well, it's a new, so they're giving up to a week before the meeting at which they're gonna be reviewed. So they had until last week to submit, and as of today, those letters are still missing.
Okay, so our hands are kind of, Andy, respectfully, our hands are kind of tied. The next time you could come before us would be the Licenses and Permits Committee meeting coming up in September.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. If we could put it over until September instead of a denial predicated on the fact that we did submit everything. The only thing we're missing are the letters. You have everything in the packet. We're in attendance this evening. So if we can get this put over, and I can get them as soon as possible, we'll email them right into Ms. Pierre as soon as my client can. I will stress the absolute importance of these right now, but that's, I guess I'm respectfully requesting that we put this over until September so my client can obtain these appropriate letters instead of a denial this evening.
So, well, then I need you to withdraw the application and reapply. That's the only way we can make this happen.
Well, that's fair. So okay, so there won't be a denial. We have to resubmit another letter. And then I wanted to submit all the documents to Ms. Pierre. I'll just have to submit the letters that are required, correct?
You would withdraw, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll Mr. Carvalho, this is Angel. So you would submit the withdrawal form, which Marlene had sent over, the missing letters and a new 30-day notice.
Okay, that's fair, guys. And then we'll resubmit, and I guess we'll have to do this all over again with the letters, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
The way we're doing it now is avoiding the denial. You guys would send a denial to the SLA, and then the application would have issues. When I'm certain and confident you will probably approve this once we provide the required letters.
We 99% of the time we do, so I will open back up before the floor, a motion to lay on the table the application contingent upon. The applicant submitting the appropriate withdrawal form.
Motion to lay on the table.
So what this means, so you understand, is that we have to receive that withdrawal form from you.
Yes.
Otherwise, the standing denial will be submitted, so we need to get that form, and so what we're doing is this is parliamentary procedure, laying it on the table, meaning we're withdrawing the motion contingent upon receipt of that paperwork. And then you can start the process again in September, okay?
Totally understood, and I appreciate this, guys. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you. Can I get a second for that motion to lay on the table? Thank you from Rosa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. One abstention? Yep. Jason Leonway abstains, the motion carries. Moving things on.
Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next we have, I'm gonna read these out. I'm just gonna ask, to our street activities and permits, and then we're gonna go one by one. And then if there are any questions, concerns. Number one was the Old Timers Block Party, number 770219. I was recommended to, be approved administratively. That's number two is 2024 East Harlem Youth Fair, number 777-178 street event, with the office of Councilmember Ayala. And that's, August 15th. Did they submit all the materials, Angel?
Which one are you up to?
Number two. The East
Harlem Youth Fair, well, they were invited, no document received.
Okay, number three, Renaissance School of the Arts, MS 377. They're number 784097. Were all the materials delivered?
No, they were invited and no document received.
Okay, number four, Sultan Audio and the Summer Bash, number 7981117. Block Party. Were all the materials provided?
Yes.
This is also something we've done in the past, so we don't need to prove it. Here. Number five, GHT Evangelistic Service, 779020, were all the materials received?
Yes.
All right, next we have Ethnic Festival Back to School Giveaway, number 795985, street event, were all the materials received?
Yes.
Okay, number 7, 831 Day, application number 795109, all the applications received.
Yes.
Number 8, Minus Helping Hands, number 787580, all the materials received.
Yes.
Family, number 9, Family Day, number 79124, Block Party, all the materials received.
No documents were received.
Okay. All right, number 10, Back to School Backpack Giveaway for 792267, Block Party, for all materials received.
No, they have not submitted any materials.
Okay. Number 11, Back to School Event, number 790548, Block Party, all materials received.
No, all documents are missing.
And then the last one, which is barbecue number 797190, Block Party. All materials received.
Yes.
Right, so what I'm going to do, yes,
On item number 1, Alzheimer's Block Party, the applicant is online. SAPO has already approved that application. We would have some, our recommendation was to approve this. However, since the agenda was sent out, concerns have been expressed, and you might want to recognize the person that raised this question, that they're on the line.
yes, I
That
will.
express those concerns.
Now, before I jump into that, are there any other concerns from the body on whether or not with the other events before I go back to that?
If I may, I would recommend, bundle the approvals and the denials and the items that are denied, if there's anybody online. Obviously, we would hear them, and if not, then we just move forward with motion.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to do. So what we have right now, yes, Jewel, you had a comment about one of the,
Yes, if I may be recognized.
Yes, but which number? Because I may come back to this number one, the Old Timers Block Party.
Well, I mean, the concern raised in my email communication was with regard to numbers 1 and 9, but now that I've heard that number 9 do not have all of their documentation, I'm assuming that will not be approved. And I've just heard that number 1 has been approved, but I did send a lengthy email indicating my concerns with the Old Timers Block Party and the Family Day occurring on the same day. And to be more specific, I live at 1955 First Avenue. The Old Timers takes place at 100th Street, and the Family Day takes place at 101st Street, same day, same time. And I expressed that this was a safety issue, as Second Avenue would not be accessible. And I also expressed that it's really disruptive to the block, the neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, I received, I believe there were some responses, so Jewel, if you don't mind, I will come back to this to hear additional information, but I don't want to lose form on the other ones for approvals and denials. So if I could get those votes in, we can come back if there's any other thing you'd like to add to that, okay? Now, you said, Angel, there's someone from number 1 that's here.
So the applicant, Mr. Cox. is on.
Okay, I will come to Mr. Cox in just a moment, stand by. We will be recognized. Let me. Number 2, number 3. Number 9, number 10, number 11. We're all denials. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, by Jose, seconded by Rosa.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay,
I'm sorry, Xavier, just so I make sure I have the right ones. 2, 3, 9, 10, 11. Correct?
That's what I have.
yep,
Thank you.
okay. Since the 1 was administratively approved, which is number 4, I'm going to bundle. 5, 6, 7, 8. And 12. Is there a motion to approve? Rosa, seconded. Yes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. We will go back to number 1.
Xavier, I'm sorry, I missed the people you recognized.
Oh,
I was taking notes.
it was Rosa, and Secretary.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jewel, so if you could explain, what you sent the email, this will be on public record, please. And then I'm going to allow Mr. Cox to respond.
So the main concern was the fact that there were 2 events taking place same day, same time, and enveloping First Avenue between 100 and 101st Street. Now, you've just said that one of the events, the Family Day, will not be taking place. And as a matter of record, I also reached out to the Deputy Speaker's office about this, and I believe she's email was sent regarding number 9. But the Old Timers, I would have to say that with all due respect to the event and the person that's about to speak, because they've made a change in that in their event where they have it at the 2nd Avenue, towards the 2nd Avenue side of 100th Street, it really doesn't impact the Aspen, which is where I live, which is where there are a lot of concerns have been raised. So they're having it at the 2nd Avenue side. So last year's they had it at the 2nd Avenue side. There really wasn't much of an issue outside of issues raised by building superintendent and other individuals who live at the Aspen in terms of garbage and in terms of noise. But outside of that, I think the event went okay. And as for my main concern was the fact that 2 events were taking place same day, same time, 100th Street and 101st Street, and it was an issue of safety.
Yeah, no, thank you, Leslie, I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Cox, would you like to respond? You may unmute yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I changed the date because I'm going to a wedding on the 17th, which is the day we would have usually did it, and I put the date in for the 10th. And as far as the garbage, we clean up. People stay in the block. The same thing, we had the same argument last year. People stay in the block after the block party that lived there. When we finish the block party, we clean up, we pick up everything. So I don't know about that complaint.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cox. If there is a way I think you've cured one of the other issues raised, was moving towards the Second Avenue side, and thank you for clarifying that this. Will you plan on next year returning to the previous, like 17th or whatever it falls next year? Are you planning to return to that later
Yes.
date? Okay,
Yes.
all right, so this is just a one-off situation, so that helps answer one of our concerns. We've had a lot of block parties where similar complaints have come up. And one of the solutions we found is that one of the stewards of the block, if they could check after the block party shut down, whatever that hour may be, they usually an hour or so later. One of the block leaders will go by and just remind people to pick up the trash and do a last pass. Do you think you could assist with that? Or have one of your team do that? Okay, all right, that's it. Thank you for being part of the community, you know, assuaging our concerns. Yes, Jose.
Block parties can be annoying to the community. You don't have to tell me, I'm on 116, second and third. It's like every week. But you know, this is part of the community, part of where we're at. Old Timers Way is a block party that's been going on since I was a kid. I think this is part of like East Harlem heritage and customs, and I think that we should have that integration. I just want to make sure that that goes on the record.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jose, thank you, I appreciate that, and Joel, thank you for raising it and seeing that there's an amicable outcome, and we look forward to rebuilding and deepening our relationships in the community, so thank you for everyone for being part of this dialogue. Okay, so Angel, if Sapo's already approved, Sapo's already approved this, and we provisionally, it's kind of moved at this point, correct? All right, thank you. All right,
I'm sorry, I was voicing yes to something I was reading. You should vote so we have it on record.
yeah.
We're doing 5 things at once, sorry.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, is there a motion? So, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. I'd like to move us along. Nearly there, nearly there. All right, thank you for attending. Oh, can you, we can keep it down all, so just write it down actually.
I don't see you.
This needs a budget. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm having people waiting.
Yeah, fine, thank you very much.
We'll need to put that on the.
All right. All right, district needs and budget, chair, next steps. We're doing a little bit of musical chairs, everyone. I want to say thank you to the leadership. Unfortunately, some of the people, we're gonna be repositioning. Jess is gonna take over as our new chair of statement of district needs and budget. Thank you so much.
Anything else?
Just,
Yeah. That's why you're done.
So, Rose is gonna go over environment, open space and park. She's already on the committee. She's gonna chair, Jason, of course, is standing where he is. Thank you, thank you. We have Jose is gonna, move over from public safety to, where's he done? Economic development and culture. We have Anne Marie Vasquez, who's gonna chair lessons and permanents, and then Brianna's going over to housing. So that is where we're transitioning, for right now. So,
take over on safety?
right now, we have not made a final determination. That's what we are working on.
I need to know that question.
But you gotta become a full board member. Just get that application in. So, be prime, we will be having, one of the things we're doing in district needs a budget, although the model we like, which is to have the vice chairs of all committees sitting on it. Became a little bit cumbersome for those who committed to it. We will be condensing that committee by about half. And having people who may sit on 2 of the committees also sitting on state and district needs and budget, making it more condensed committee so it can get more work done. There will be potential members we're still in discussions with. We're going with those forms, so we'll have the members sign. And then meetings with our elected to city agencies, will be moving forward within our executive committee's next steps. So it's a work in progress. We were hoping to have everything done and dusted by now, but we're still waiting for some responses. Any questions, concerns? No? All right, committee appointments. We still have some outstanding members who need to submit their forms. I think there are 9 left. And then we will be discussing probably next week on where we're assigning people. Executive expectations, decorum, attendance, active participation. It's really important. A lot of our new members, existing members, just getting people involved, getting the questions out, getting the new members to participate, maintaining respect and decorum, reminding people, even as it's very impassioned this conversation, that we should be respectful at all times. And oftentimes be open to opposing views. I'm not here to cancel one another. We've seen too much of that. It shuts down dialogue. We have valuable information we can be contributing. So that's something, we have the committee chair responsibilities document, please take one home. This is the expectations going forward, and it's up to us as leaders to bring that forward. So with that, let's real quick, we'll be able to go into more detail on it on September when we have everything here. And next is old business, and we just lost one. Jose. Should we,
Table it to the next meeting.
no,
You can't wait.
Yeah, we can. I have a proposal.
Yeah.
Try to get us past this. Would you approve it yourself administratively? The committee was leaning towards approving it in May. We just forgot to put it on the agenda, and their event's gonna happen before, this is for the East Harlem Law Day. It's gonna happen before we convene again in September.
if the committee will ratify it. The committee will ratify it. Because we did. Who's Rashonda?
And we did announce it like twice.
Why's that about? Why do you want?
Try to follow Jay to see where he is.
Oh.
Well, I can go, right?
Hey, what are you? You all ready over there on Second Avenue?
Man, you walk fast.
Oh, no, we have one other vote item, the request of board confirmation.
That's good.
It's fine, it's fine, I'm gonna put it administratively, we'll ratify it. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, if there are no objections to that, he said he could get on the link, I'm fine to approve it administratively, because we've already talked about it and said to commit the funds. So I'm fine with that, if everyone else here is supportive, yes?
Yeah.
Jason? You're supportive?
I'm done with that.
So the answer is yes.
All right, all right. With that, we'll move things along. All right, any new business? I have a hand raised from a member of the public, Rashonda Wickham.
Yeah, I had a question about the block party 797190. I just want to make sure I heard you guys correctly. Did you say denied?
No, you're talking about the barbecue number 797190.
Yeah,
It's on September 7th,
correct,
129th Street between Fifth and Madison.
correct.
No, we approved that.
Approved. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have fun. Hope to
Appreciate it.
stop by.
Thanks.
Okay. And since we've lost quorum, there's no reason to vote to adjourn. Thank you very much for everyone sticking through it. Okay?
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, you can take it for ratification meeting.